sometimes we can get so caught up on where is the Lord directing me, and we constantly. I'm speaking for myself. I'm not putting this on you guys that this is how you operate, but sometimes for me, even when I was in college and Bible college, just like Ryan was, I'm thinking, all right, what is that destination the Lord is going to get me to? I'm just thinking destination. There's a direction that he's gonna, and it's gonna be clear, and I'm gonna be in the spirit, and I'm gonna be so effective, blah, 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 right? And then it kind of comes to the point where you realize it's not about the direction, it's about how faithful and obedient are you being in the here and now. And the direction, you might never know where the direction is. I don't think Paul and Barnabas always knew what the direction was. I mean, look at the three missionary journeys in the book of Acts. It's like they're all over the place. It's like they were going everywhere in the known world at that time, right? Did they know they were going to go in all those places and plant all those churches? I don't know. The Bible doesn't necessarily say so. But as you shared, Ryan, before we went on air, is that when it comes to direction, sometimes how the Lord works is he doesn't give us a clear yes. He just gives us clear no's. And is that kind of what you were sharing at the beginning before we went on air? And if so, can you explain kind of what that means?
Yeah. So if you do a study on where the Lord, how the Spirit leads and acts, or how the Lord uses the gift of prophecy in the New Testament and in the Old Testament, you'll see that a good majority of that of the content in there, I guess, is it are warnings, or are like, don't go here, go there. I could at least speak for like the finite studying that I've done on it in Acts, where first of all, like the Holy Spirit sends out Paul and Barnabas.
Yep.
They were separated and they were sent out, but it doesn't say the Lord led the Spirit led them to the next city. It doesn't see that. It doesn't. It doesn't say that. It just says the Holy Spirit sends them out. And so, I mean, I believe that they relied on the last words of Jesus, that you shall be witnesses to me in Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth.
Acts 1:8. Yep.
Yeah, and so, and then they're going for it, and actually, when Paul wrote Romans, he was in, I forget if it was Macedonia or Achaia, but there's like two verses in Acts, or in one verse in Acts, he plans to go back to Jerusalem, and then he's in Achaia. He plans to go back to Jerusalem, and then after he sees Jerusalem, he must also see Rome, which is on the other side of that known world. So like he's moving. He's moving. He's planning the next 3 years of his life or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so he's going for it, and again, like the places where you see like the Spirit leading him. I think the next place where it says that the Spirit or mentions like the Spirit's direction is in Acts 16. I don't have it referenced, but I'm pretty sure it's Acts 16. Where you say in disbelief.
Oh no! I mean, you fact check us on your own. I don't know references very well. I know a lot. I know that I can verify that the things he's saying is in the book of Acts.
You better verify.
I just don't know where in the book of Acts. Which I like to say that the references in the Bible were not inspired by God; they're put in by man. So if I say it's in the book of Acts, then I'm right on.
You make sure you can find the speaking lies. If we are.
Yeah, be a good Berean, right? The Bereans heard the words from Paul and studied the scriptures to make sure that they were accurate. Yeah. But anyway, keep going.
The Spirit. Paul's going through this town, and then he's wanting to preach the word to this town. The Spirit doesn't permit them to go there. Yes. Yep. And so the Spirit says no. And then they're like, okay, let's try and go to this town. And the Spirit doesn't permit them to go there either. It says in the at night, Paul received a vision. And normally you'd see at night that you'd receive a dream, like you were sleeping, but no, he received a vision. So he was awake, and and then the Holy Spirit tells him that, or gives him like a vision of a Macedonian man saying,
Okay, the man,
we need help with
Yeah.
the work over here. And so I say that I talk about the night because like Paul was distressed, probably, like he
Mhm.
was probably worried, like he's going for it, he's literally moving, he's on the move trying to find a place to speak the word. And I mean, I don't know about you, but it'd be pretty like you'd probably be worrying a little bit if you were hindered by the Spirit to go somewhere, and then the Lord directs them. Okay, the Lord leads them to the next spot. So I guess it's pretty clear just with like what we've already said, like what we're like saying, what I'm trying to say is like,
Yeah.
it's better to hear no from the Lord than to hear go. Because if you hear go, then you're not moving, but if you hear no, that implies that you're going for it, And okay, so how are we supposed to be living for the Lord right now? Jesus said it 5 times maybe in 4 of the Gospels and in the beginning of Acts that we're supposed to be making disciples, being witnesses of Jesus and preaching the gospel. So we know we have clear direction regardless.
It's good. Sorry, I'm just combing through the scriptures. Yeah, the man of Macedonia was in chapter 16. You're right on, Ryan. Look at you. And yeah, but that's the one time. Again, not that everything in the book of Acts is prescriptive. There's a hermeneutics term just for you guys. This is a little extra, not necessarily the topic we're talking about, but things in the Bible are either descriptive or prescriptive. Things that are descriptive in the Bible are things that are just described and are not meant to happen to you per se. Take, for example, Moses in the burning bush. That's a descriptive event. More than likely, you're not going to get a burning bush calling from the Lord. If you do, let me know. I want to hear about that. But the principle behind God calling us is prescriptive, but the method of the burning bush is descriptive, right? So we got to apply that to the book of Acts as well, right? Because the majority of it is historical narrative. And when you read historical narrative, you've got to comb through what's prescriptive versus descriptive. Anyway, that's hermeneutics lesson 101.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the book of Acts, not everything that happens to Paul is going to happen to us per se, but it could. So,
Yeah.
But what's clear, what helps distinguish things, Ryan, between prescriptive and descriptive is how frequently it happens in the book of Acts, right?
Yeah.
If something's just a one-time event, most likely it's not going to be prescriptive, right? This is where different denominations get different points of views. But if you see something happening multiple times in the book of Acts, then chances are that's prescriptive. That's the way God intended us to do it. So the way that Paul and Silas and Barnabas and Timothy and all these different missionaries just went after it, I think that's prescriptive for us as well, right? God has set them apart. We see that, as you mentioned, in the church of Antioch, and then they just went for it. Maybe the Spirit did measure out their steps completely, but I think there was this freedom where, like, all right, I'm calling you out. Now you just go after it type thing, and I'll tell you when to stop. And then I'll tell you even where to go. Because the man of Macedonia, I guess what was an instance where God did directly tell them to go somewhere, and we're arguing that God majority tells us to stop.
Yeah.
So that kind of goes against our argument a little bit.
For sure.
But it's only one time, right? So he doesn't really speak in visions very often in that way to Paul.
Yeah.
Maybe he did have a man of Thessalonica in a vision. It's just not recorded in the Bible.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just got to read between the lines a little bit. But from what we can see, though, it's just like they just went. They went after it. They didn't wait for a specific blueprint and direction from the Lord. They just went, and then God would close doors. So for you and I, modern application, Ryan, right, is the Lord puts things on our hearts. And the Lord is directing us, not necessarily calling us out per se and whispering in our ear, Ryan, you're going to go work at WM Tech. Is that the name of the organization you're working for?
Yeah.
Yeah. He probably didn't do that per se, right? And he's not going to go to you like, Bella, if your name is Bella, you gotta go to Singapore, right? He might do that. What he wants you to do is, how about you? I've given you passions. I've given you giftings. I've given you availability. Do something with that. And if it's something I don't like you doing, I'm going to tell you, right?
Yeah.
I think there's this freedom. We sometimes see the will of God as like a tightrope. Like we got to really make sure we're on that tightrope and we're following that one path. When in reality, it's not. It's a 12-lane road, right? And you can go in any lane, and you're still in the will of God, and you're still following His direction, right?